Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Sunday Night Live, or as I'm temporarily calling them, Studio on 5 Live. I hope everybody is okay and has had a great weekend, and I hope, actually, I've just done a little bit of a reset of OBS, so, because there was an update available, so hopefully you guys can hear me all good. I'm just going to check my audio levels and make sure that we are all good. Looks like we are. Excellent. That's what I like to see. So, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Jonny, and this is Jonny Lipsham Studios, and we are based in Edinburgh, Scotland, which is, as everyone should know by now, the capital of the world. I know that there is one fellow Scot here in the chat who is in Glasgow, just up the road from here, about 50 or so miles away, which is awesome. The more Scots we have on here, the better. So that's good. But yeah, so we have 21 people here already, which is pretty awesome. And in fact, before I started the show, before I hit the start button, there were 18 of you waiting and chatting amongst yourselves, which is great. That's what I like to see. So I'm glad you are all here. Just checking that my lighting looks good, which it does. That's cool. So, hope you've all had a great week. I've had a very busy one. I don't think there is any such thing when you work at Persona Support as a week that's not busy. But yeah, it's definitely busy, and Ski Jump Toes is down in Norfolk. Awesome. I know Norfolk pretty well from all of my touring days when I used to tour around the UK. I used to do a lot of touring, and so yeah, I've been to Norfolk a fair few times. It's a beautiful part of England, I have to say. So yeah, it has been a busy week. Lots of stuff, lots of exciting things actually going down, which is great. I like it when it's exciting. So let's see. Bobby Beer says, no, Texas is the capital of the world. Oh, Bobby, I'm so disappointed. You're so wrong. I'm kidding. No, I think wherever you are, wherever you live, wherever you are passionate about, and the people that you are passionate about, and the community that you are passionate about, that's the capital of the world, as far as you're concerned. And as far as I'm concerned, Edinburgh is the capital of the world because we have awesome people. It's a very, very diverse, multicultural city. And it's perfect because you have city, you have the beach not far away, and you have the hills, and you have 3 extinct volcanoes within the city. So, you know, you've got plenty of climbing opportunities, you've got plenty of beach opportunities, and you've got a beautiful, very, very ancient city to explore as well. So anyway, that's enough about Edinburgh. Where else are people at? So now that we're all talking about where we are, Kyle says he has friends in Chelmsford and Manchester. I know Manchester extremely well, and I know Chelmsford a little bit from having played at the race course a fair few times. Just Bob is our ruler, all bow to Just Bob. I could not agree more. The capital of the world is wherever I'm at, absolutely. Yes, for sure. I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to see who's here. Thomas, of course, is always first in the door these days. He's over in the Philippines. So I have no idea what time of the day it is over in the Philippines. But yeah, you're always in good and early. Excuse me. And MB, is that Lister? I'm going to call you MB Lister. And if that's wrong, then please do correct me. I am happy to be corrected. Is here. He or she, I don't know whether you're male or female. But you've just said, I literally just bought Studio One last week. Congratulations. But you go on to say, I'm a complete noob. That's okay. We've all been there. You know, we have all been through that phase in our music production experience. And, you know, so none of us have any right to kind of look down our noses at anybody else, because we have all been at that phase where everything you do kind of sucks. And you're kind of learning and you're kind of getting a grasp and getting a handle on things. And figuring out how things work and figuring out how compression and EQ makes a difference and how to use them. You know, it's like building your first house, you know, or your first, you know, putting your first shelves up, doing your first bit of DIY. And, you know, the first few times they fall down, but eventually you get the hang of it and you become a total master at putting shelves up and making them look great. So, you know, it takes a wee while. What do I think so far? He says, jittery, buggy issues with locating missing audio files where upon reboot. Yet that can happen. And that's not necessarily a Studio One issue. More often than not, that is to do with when the song becomes disassociated with or loses contact with the media files. And that can happen if the song file itself gets moved, but the actual folder that contains all of the data for that song gets left behind. So the two no longer have contact with each other. And when that happens, the first thing that Studio One does when you load up a song is it goes looking for those files, because it needs the media files. It needs the image data in order to draw the waveforms and all of your automation and everything else. And it needs to remember it needs to recall all of your EQ and compression and reverb and delay settings and all of that. So, you know, the Studio One song isn't just the .song file. A lot of people think that that's what it is, that it's just the .song file, but it isn't. It's a folder. And the folder with yours that is titled when you title the song, the whole folder gets titled that way. And so, the folder contains the song file, the executable song file that loads into Studio One, but it also contains all of your settings. It contains all of the image data. It contains all of the media. What is media? The media is all of your audio recordings. So anytime you record a vocal, anytime you record a trumpet, anytime you record a guitar or a bass guitar or a drum set or anything that has been recorded with a microphone or an instrument line level cable into Studio One, that's the media. And those are contained in a folder within the song folder. So let's say you want to send your song folder to somebody else so that they can do their part but you want them to do it within your song. So a lot of people think, oh, I just send the .song. No, if you do that, there's no media. And if somebody loads that into Studio One, it will just say missing audio files all over the place. And they'll not be able to hear anything. They'll not be able to do their part properly. So you actually have to send them a zipped up copy of the entire song folder in order for them to have an exact copy of the media file, folder, an exact copy of the image folder, and everything else, as well as the executable song file. So there you go, a little kind of short lesson on file management with Studio One. Be careful when you are moving things around that .song executable files do not become disassociated from the folder that they are supposed to be contained within. It can happen, and it does happen reasonably regularly enough that in Persona support we see a reasonable number of people submitting support tickets about this particular issue. And I have a little document that I send everybody every time that helps them, that they can just go through and teaches them a little bit of the file management. So I hope that helps. So even if you never move the song folder itself, if you move the .song executable, they can become disassociated. That can happen. And, you know, there are kind of variations of that where things can become disassociated. So I hope that answers that. Photography, Light, and Magic says Studio One is just fine. Just don't move the files. Yep, absolutely. Just Bob is here. Bill Shepherd is here. Kyle Jedruziak is here. And who else do we have? We've got 34 people watching. Good grief. That's amazing. And we have Kelly Winters. Hey, Kelly. Good to see you. And I actually have somebody's song that they sent me to listen to critique. And I said I'd get to it this weekend. And I'm going to, as soon as this show is finished, I'm going to dash off my notes. I made handwritten notes. And I'm going to type them up and send you that email. So you know who you are, who I'm referring to. And I'm going to get that back to you. And make sure it actually gets to the person who wrote the song as well. I would appreciate that. Kelly says, I've been putting off upgrading to Studio One 5 to wait for a few bug fixes, but I think I'll go ahead. I feel like I'm missing out on some good training everywhere. That's a great idea. And actually, what you're talking about there is wisdom. And it's something that I wholeheartedly recommend. As soon as a brand new version of Studio One comes out, like a 0.0 release, like 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, when we get to it, 6.0, and then when we get to the next one after that, 7.0, when they come out, I always recommend hang tight. Unless you are brave enough, and unless you have time built into your schedule, so that, you know, if you want to be an early adopter, I'm just going to say remind me later. I know I need to update that. So yeah, if you want to be an early adopter of a 0.0 release of Studio One, that's great. I totally applaud that. Just bear in mind that there are caveats to such things, such as there will be bugs out there. And that's no slight on Personas, because I work for Personas. Okay? There is no such thing as a bug-free software. Every piece of software has bugs. It just does. It's the nature of software design, software development, because nobody has exactly the same setup. Especially if you're on PC. There are so many hundreds of variables of components, of motherboards, of chipsets, of sound cards, of RAM sticks, the works. There are so many possible variables, particularly on PCs, that our beta testing team cannot test every single possible variable. They just can't. And you may well find that on your particular computer, there is an issue. There is a bug in the software. And it's a Studio One thing. And it's maybe not agreeing with your RAM stick, or it's not agreeing with your chipset, or whatever it might be. So, we can't test anything. Otherwise, we would never put out a release. We'd be testing it ad infinitum forever. And nobody would ever get a new version of Studio One. So, we have to take a risk when we put something out. When we put a version of Studio One out, we're kind of taking a risk to a degree. As far as we are aware, when we put a release out, it is the most stable release we can get. We can make it as, it's the most stable release we can make it. Sometimes it goes extremely well. Like, in my opinion, I think 5.0 has gone extremely well. And not just my opinion, but from my experience of the last 4 weeks working in support, I can say that actually this has been an extremely stable release. because most people are having minor things. And minor things are great because minor things are easy to fix. So, but that's not to say that we haven't got it wrong sometimes, because we have. And that's okay, because we're all human and we all make mistakes. And, that does happen from time to time. So yeah, waiting is wise, especially if you are working on a project at the moment. If you are working on a current project, wait until you have finished that project, especially if you have fee-paying clients who are paying you money to work on their song or their album or their EP or whatever it is. If they are paying you money, don't upgrade to 5.0 until you're finished and you have the money in your hands. Then go ahead and upgrade. I always say, give yourself a window where you're going to do the upgrade. So, just like you would kind of schedule anything else in your business life, schedule when you do your upgrades. And the byproduct is, by waiting, there will be a bug fix maintenance release that is put out that will have caught a lot of the things that a lot of the early adopters experienced. And you'll have been like, yay, I missed out on those. So that's a good thing. That's a wise thing to do. But yeah, if you are confident enough and you kind of know what you're doing enough with software and with Studio One, then be an early adopter. Early adopters are good. Anyway, we've got donations coming in and I have been missing them. So I need to go and look at what we have. Bobby Booth with the $5 donation says, we can disagree on the capital, but we're still friends. Absolutely. I would not be doing this show without Bobby Booth. It's, kind of Bobby's encouragement has helped me build this show up to what it is now. I mean, just 2 years ago, I had absolutely horrible internet. It was the worst internet connection possible, and the show was pixelated, the sound was mono, and sometimes sound like the audio was going through I don't know, some kind of dishwater or something. It didn't sound good, it didn't look good, it was very, very limited. But Bobby was there at every single show, so this show would not happen without him. Kyle is here. Kyle was one of my early adopters as well. He says, keeping the home fires burning, and that's $5 from him as well. And Kelly says, live is good and music is the doctor. Absolutely, I could not agree more. Thank you very much for your generous donation. Lorenz is here as well. Lorenz has been around for a good wee while on my show, and he is a big supporter of Jonny Guibe as well. And so I can speak for him and say, we really, really appreciate you guys. I mean, you guys are you are at all of Jonny's shows, and I know he appreciates you guys, and I certainly do. Lowen says, got my Audiobox Anniversary Edition yesterday. I was amazed by the free software it came with. Yes, I'm glad you like it, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a fantastic piece of kit. You're a very lucky dude. Alrighty, I've got a bit of an itchy nose, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to sneeze at some point, and if I do, I apologize, because I won't be able to mute my mic. So sorry about that. Let's see. Mike Neighbor is here, one of my very faithful moderators. He says, I'll be around after I eat. Whole family is running late because my wife's work schedule is completely effed up. I apologize for that, my dear friend. Enjoy your dinner. Don't rush it down. You can catch the replay and we can talk afterwards for sure. Just remember the time zone difference. And if I don't reply to you, it's probably because I have fallen asleep. So, yes, there is that. Hotbox Guitars is here. As is Dooley still as well. Dooley is not... I've not seen you around for a wee while, Dooley, but I'm very glad you're here. Mika Han is here as well. Let's see. I'm missing out on some of the chat. Kenny Winter says, yeah, that's all software. Just goes with the territory. Yeah, absolutely. Ski Jump Toes says, do you think PreSonus will ever add in MIDI playback in the show page? I for DMX stage lighting control would be great if so. I would say make a feature request of that, my friend. Absolutely. That is a belter of an idea. Who knows whether that will get added or not. And if I knew, I would not be able to tell you anyway. You know that. It's one thing I cannot do is I cannot give information about what is coming down the line. Because I would get fired instantly. And that would not be a good thing at all. Because I love PreSonus. I've been working with them, independently working with them and being endorsed by them for 6 or 7 years. And now I work for them, which is awesome. I love the company. I love the job I'm doing. So I don't want to lose it. So there you go. Entomology loves bugs. Yeah, it most certainly does. And pathology as well is another bug-loving job. And forensics as well. Product placement. Let's see, what am I missing here? Mika says, imagine investing thousands in hardware software only to find that the particular assemblage of your personal machine can render it all useless. A MIDI chipset or graphics chipset. PCs are crazy sharp. I'm not going to comment on that. That's your opinion. I'm not going to comment upon that. But yeah. Mac has its problems as well. Mac likes to, you know, the good folks at Apple like to enforce upon their users a particular way of doing things. And they'll just say, and the rest of the world must fall into step. And I think that's just as bad. But I'm not going to get into a PC versus Mac debate, because that's not what this show is about. This is not a computer technology show. This is Studio One 5 Live. And I am going to get into some Studio One stuff in just a minute, because we're coming up on halfway through the show. Diego is here, says, did you go to college to learn music production? I was thinking of making demos for others. Diego, that is a great question. Yes, I did. I went to university and I did a joint honors degree in jazz composition and audio engineering at Middlesex University in North London, down in England. And once I graduated from my degree, I went and worked in a studio. Did an apprenticeship in a studio called Boundary Row. And I did a lot of session work in various studios around London. And I formed my band. Pretty much 2 years after I graduated, I formed my 12-piece funk band in 1999 and worked with them until recently. I no longer have the band, but yeah. So yes, I did my degree in jazz composition and audio engineering. It's a great joint degree. Loved it. But that's a really good question. John Lake is here. Hello, John. Good to see you. Budbox Guitar is asking how my foot is. I'm going back to the doctors tomorrow to get it reviewed because it's not really improving. Just Bob asks, what affiliation does Positive Grid with the Spark amp have with offering Studio One Prime with the redeemable coupon code? I realize Prime is free. Yes, it is. Prime is free. And essentially what you get is a kind of bespoke kind of version of Studio One Prime. It has like a couple of things for their amps that are whitelisted. And that's all it is, really. But yeah, it's just a copy of Prime, fundamentally. So yeah, other than that, that's about it. Mika says, I'm not into Mac PC debate. My comment is based on the portability of software hardware to various studio locations. If it works, I don't care which it is. Yeah, Okay, fair enough. If it works, yes, fair enough. So in classical music score study, Mike Neighbor asks, how do you know if the composer used a mode like Mixolydian as the key? Great question. Fairly simple answer. And for this, we're going to go to the Fender Rhodes without the acres of reverb. But that's a really good question. So Mixolydian mode, for those of you that don't know, is basically G to G on the white notes of the keyboard. So G, A, B, C, D, F, natural. There's the F natural and G. It's like the G major scale, but with a F natural instead of an F sharp. Because the normal G major scale would be... but yeah, it's got a flat 7. So if you're looking on a score and you have a suspicion that maybe this composer has composed the entire piece in Mixolydian mode and is not using traditional major minor 3-6-2-5-1 style chord changes, or any variation thereof that is kind of traditional chord changes, there are a few signs to look out for. One of the signs is that it might be written with no sharps. And you'll think, aha, it's in the key of C major. It might be, but if it's not in the key of C major, you can watch for G's appearing. And if there is a G chord or a G7 chord at the beginning and at the end of your song, then you know it probably is in G Mixolydian. Okay, and you would know, you would kind of hear that, and you would obviously not see any F sharps. So that would be one way to find out. And then there's of course the harmonic route, which is where in most modal stuff you would hear unconventional harmony, like stacks of fourths, or kind of these kind of sounds. Those kind of sounds would be what you would hear. Mike follows that up by saying, but on scores you will see in C major, E minor, etc. You never see anything about modes. Unless the composer specifically states this is in G Mixolydian at the top of the score, then the only way you're going to find out is by doing a little bit of detective work, which is what I was referring to here. So yeah, you're going to have to explore the score and look out for key signs like the lack of the leading tone, which would be the F sharp in the key of G. If there's no leading tone and all you're seeing is the flat 7, then it's pretty good chance that it's probably G Mixolydian. All right, so yeah, that's something to look out for. Let's see what else we got question-wise. Bill Shepard asks, has Studio 1.5 Prime been released? I haven't seen it out there yet, and I know it's usually been available a couple of months after the new version release. Yes, it's not available yet. Not available yet. But yeah, by all means, keep your eyes open for it, and when it drops, you'll know about it. Yes, I did notice that Rick Beato passed 1.7 million subscribers, which is awesome, because he is awesome. He is not just a great guy, but he really, 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 really knows his stuff. He is a seriously well-schooled and very talented guy, and is actually a very good educator. He's one of those rare breeds who is not just a great musician, but is also a great educator. He happens to be a fantastic musician who has worked exceptionally hard and practiced for exceedingly long hours to be as good as he is on the instruments that he plays. And as a composer and arranger, which he is, but he is also a fantastic educator. And you know, it's not often that those two things go together. So yeah, in his case, really does go well. Mike says, but a composer wouldn't necessarily write a piece in a mode. Yes, they would. They can if they want to. That's the whole beauty of composition. You can write it how you want. It's your piece. If you want to write your entire piece in the Dorian mode, go ahead. Or if you want to write your entire piece in the Phrygian mode, go for it. There are pieces out there that are written for orchestra, and they are orchestral pieces of music that are written entirely in the Phrygian mode. Why? Because the Phrygian mode has that flat 9 in it, so it sounds a little bit exotic. And so there are works out there that, you know, kind of, you know, make quite a lot of capital out of that, you know. You know, you'd see those kind of things cropping up. Turn that down a bit. We're clipping a little bit. So yeah, those kind of things come up when you're in Phrygian mode. Has that nice flat 9 thing. Sounds a little bit Arabic. Sounds a little bit Spanish. So, because the Phrygian mode kind of is that little bit exotic sounding because of that flat 9. All right, let's get into some Studio One stuff because this is Studio One 5 Live. Now, kind of the thing I wanted to look at is copy pasting entire channel strips. It is so freaking useful and powerful. I use it quite a bit. In fact, just recently I've been working with my dad. My dad just got Studio One 5 Professional, and so I've been working with him so that he can start setting up shows for, because, you know, he and my mum, they still work. They're still working musicians. You know, they're officially retired. They play their gigs, but they don't take any money for their gigs anymore because they don't need to. They don't want to. They're retired, but they still love to go and play gigs. So I've been helping him set up his shows, and I showed him how you can take, you know, a vocal channel setting and bring that into a vocal player that you have in the show page, and just by copy pasting. It's just so fantastically powerful. But there's another application which, and of course you can copy, you know, like if you want the same channel settings on your vocal to be on your double vocal, if you like to double vocals, which I do. I like to do that. So if I want to have the same settings, then I just copy the channel. Before, I used to just click and drag the plugins, but now I don't even have to do that. I can just right-click, copy and paste directly onto my next channel. It's incredibly useful. But let's say you want to, you know, you have a vocal channel setting that you really like, that you use quite a lot, but you want it on the input side. So you want to record through that whole chain. Well, you can do that. It's very, very cool. And I'm just creating a new song just now. And I'm going to grab a vocal channel and we'll go from there. So let's press that button and press that button. So now you should be looking at Studio One. And let's go to our effects tab. We'll open up the mixer down the bottom here. We'll close that. We'll close that. We don't need those, but we're going to open up the inputs. And there you can see me talking to you. And we'll expand the mixer a little bit. Get the sense up as well. But let's say I have Fat Channel on here. Where is Fat Channel? There it is. Excuse me, snorting in your ear holes. Not very nice. But let's say I have this guy and I'm doing kind of a little bit of a boost, but mostly a cut there in the low end, and I've got my high end, and let's say I like this. Let's say I like this, just for example. And then let's say with the compressor, we're going with the nice tube compressor. And we're going to do a reasonable amount of compression. We've got that set up to record. Check, check, check. And yeah, we're kind of happy with how that's going to work out. And then let's say, just for argument's sake, just for funsies, let's say we want to go and grab something else. Let's say we get this compressor after it as well, like that. And let's say we're happy with a little bit of that, a little bit of that. I'm just fooling around, basically. But let's say I'm happy with this, but I want to record through it. Well, I can copy, go over here, and I can go paste. And now they're on my inserts. And I can get rid of those. Get rid of those. And now I'm going straight through. I'm recording literally straight through this now. So when I hit record, and I'm speaking to you through this channel, and I have no idea what this sounds like in particular, but I can print this directly to my audio, which I might want to do. So there we go. And we can play that back. We can turn that off. And I'm speaking to you through this channel, and I have no idea what this sounds like in particular, but I can print this directly to my audio, which I might want to do. All right, so there you go. So that's just a really, really handy little feature that I really like. And as far as I can recall, you can still, is it Alt drag or Control drag? I can never remember to get rid of them. No, that was the wrong one. I think it's, oh, it might even be Shift. I can't remember. No, not that. I can't remember which one it is. Is it Control? Yeah, it's Control. Control and drag, and it gets rid of them. So now we're back to where we started. But yeah, that whole copy channel thing is just so powerful. You know, I could you know, go back and bring that entire channel setting, and I can copy it and paste it into another song if I want to, which is phenomenally useful and powerful. And I'm so glad that they put this in, because I make use of copy pasting channel settings all the time between songs. And it's great now that I can just bring in a whole vocal chain into the show page as well, which means I can use exactly the same settings that I have used in recording in my live performance and get exactly the same sound that I had before. So, and in some cases that works really, really well, because that's what you want. You want to sound a little bit like the record. And so, you know, that's a really great, helpful way to do it. So that's my little Studio One tip for the show. And I can always go back and we can look at some other things there as well, if you would like. Philip Simmons is here. Hello, Philip. I think you're new to my show. Welcome. And you say, it never ceases to amaze me about the RAM memory getting used up fast. And you have 8 megs of RAM. Well, yeah, if you have, oh, you've corrected yourself, 8 gigs of RAM. I have 16, but I actually upgraded to a new computer not that long ago. I think it might even be 6 months ago. And on my old machine, which I had for 5 years, I had just the same as you, 8 gigs of RAM. And I never had any issues with RAM at all. But admittedly, I've only ever run Studio One 5 on my new 16 gigs of RAM machine, and it hardly breaks a sweat. But yeah. So I'm sorry you're experiencing that issue. I'm not quite sure why you might be experiencing that issue. We would maybe, you know, there's obviously some other details that are going on in the background that could be to do with your actual RAM sticks themselves. So that would be something to take a wee look at, Philip. So I would recommend maybe you create a support ticket, and either myself or one of the other guys in the support team will take a look at that with you, and we'll see what we can do for you. Let's see what else was there. Diego says, Persona is going to make a Studio One version for ARM processors. Good question. I cannot answer that, but thanks for asking. Mike Neighbor says 8 gigs is really low for audio production. It's doable, but you'll run out fast, especially if you're using a lot of virtual instruments. That is a good point. Have you considered upgrading RAM in your machine? Yeah, if you're using a lot of virtual instruments like Spitfire audio strings or the BBC Symphony Orchestra or the Vienna library, any of those big, powerful, and they are phenomenally powerful and glorious sounding libraries. If you're using those incredible libraries, then 8 gigs of RAM is going to get eaten up very quickly. Mike is absolutely right on that point. But if you are not, if VST instruments is not your thing and you just want to record old-fashioned style with microphones and instruments being plugged into an interface, then 8 gigs of RAM is entirely doable. The only issues that you might run into in that situation is going to be the plugins that you use. So if you're using lots of heavy processing plugins, CPU hungry, RAM hungry plugins, and there are a lot from a lot of different manufacturers, like some of the Slate Digital ones. On my old 8 gigs machine, I had the Slate Digital bundle, and I couldn't really use all of its potential because it would just destroy my RAM. So, and the way I really wanted to use Slate Digital was to be able to have the virtual console on every channel on my mixes. And for the most part, the smallest sessions I do are like 15 channels. But anything upwards of that, up to like 60, 70, 80 channels, putting the VCC on every single channel to get that kind of analog sound and to get the sound of the console across all of your channels, that is going to eat up your RAM very, very quickly, especially if you've only got 8 gigs, because you have to remember that a chunk of those 8 gigs are being used by your operating system. So in reality, you don't really have 8 gigs of RAM to play with. You probably have about 6.5 at best. I mean, some operating systems will take 2 gigs of RAM just to run the operating system. So if you have other things in the background, like let's say when you're running Studio One, you're also running anything that updates live, like Facebook, for example, or Twitter, or anything that updates itself every couple of minutes, that sends in and out a lot of data packets. It needs the RAM to handle all of that. So your operating system will deal with that, and it can take up to 2 gigs of your RAM. And so you end up with only 6 gigs of RAM dedicated to Studio One. That's going to run out pretty quick in those particular circumstances. So I'm kind of, for the most part, with Mike, especially if you are using orchestral libraries. You need a lot of RAM, and you need a hefty CPU as well. A quad-core CPU would suffice, but really anything that's more than 8 cores is going to do you well, and anything that is more than 16 gigs of RAM is going to do you well as well, especially if you're using a lot of virtual instruments. So there you go. Carlos says, is it a Q&A or do you plan to talk about Studio One 5? We are kind of talking about Studio One 5, but I do have Studio One 5 open. I've just done a little demo of copy-pasting the channels the channel settings. But if you have any specific Studio One 5 questions, absolutely, as Mike says, post your question, ask your question in the chat, and I am totally open and up for Studio One 5 questions for sure. So there you go. I hope that kind of addresses whose question was that? Philip's question about how much RAM. Yeah, RAM is a big thing. RAM is very, very important. We've got 40 people here, which is awesome, but we only have 16 likes. If we had, in fact, it's just gone up to 41. If everybody that finds this show useful and helpful, and you get your questions answered, and you learn something along the way at the same time, please hit that like button. If you are not a subscriber yet, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Ringing the bell is almost as important these days as the subscription. If you subscribe to my channel, that's great. You become part of the Jonny Lipsham Studios family by doing that. But also, ding that bell, because by dinging that bell, and especially if you choose the option to receive all notifications, you'll get notifications about not only this show and what time it happens, but any videos that I post up as well, or any other announcement posts that I make in the community section, which I do from time to time. But yeah, any other videos, and I have some other videos that are going to be coming. I had to take a little break from making videos just recently with lockdown and all of that, and having my kids at home, and basically trying to do a full-time job working for Personas and trying to run my business and homeschool my kids as well. Something had to give, and so the regular videos was what gave. But they will be coming back, I promise. They absolutely will be coming back, because now the situation in Scotland, we're locked down. We are kind of easing it bit by bit, and we're at the point now where my kids in a couple of weeks' time will be able to go back to school. And when they go back to school, I will be in here all day working in my job at Personas, but I will also have a period that I'm going to set aside before I start my work for Personas, where I'll be able to make videos, and I'll not have to worry about getting my kids set up with their tasks for homeschooling, which is going to be so great. I'm so looking forward to it. And hopefully, everybody does what they're supposed to do with wearing a mask. I personally think wearing a mask is exceedingly important. Not for you. It's important for everybody else. We wear a mask to protect others, not necessarily to protect ourselves. So I think that's really important. And if we do that, then coming out of lockdown should be a permanent thing, I hope. And we're less likely to go back into lockdown. And if, there is a second wave of coronavirus that it's making its way through Europe, it is going to make land here, I suspect, in the UK. And when it does, if we're all masked up, we should be able to stop it. So, yeah. As Just Bob correctly says, please use at Jonny Lipsham Studios. It provides an orange box he sees. We do not. It helps Jonny see the questions. You know what? Something, Just Bob. I'm going to add you as a moderator, my dear friend, because you are exceedingly useful, and you have just said an exceedingly useful thing. So there you go. You can join my little mod team. So all you need to do to see the little, to have your name in blue and have the little blue wrench, is just come out of this show and go straight back in, and you'll be there. You'll have it. Brian Patterson is here. Hello, Brian. Good to see you. Welcome to my show. He says, is Studio One 5 compatible with Windows 7? No, it is not. It is not even compatible with Windows 8 or Windows 8.1. It is Windows 10 only on the Windows platform. So no is the answer to that. So if you have Windows 7, you will need to upgrade to Windows 10 to use Studio One 5. Carlos P is here. He says, can we share public links of mixdowns with Persona Sphere as we would do with Dropbox, or is it only between Sphere users? You can invite non-Persona Sphere members to your workspace. When you do, when you send that invite, what will happen is the person that you send the email to will be invited to create a totally 100% free My Personas account, like the one that you had before you became a Sphere member. Persona Sphere member. I have to keep saying the Personas bit first because it's Persona Sphere, not Sphere. They will have to create a My Personas account, and when they do, they will have, through that My Personas account, access to your workspace, and you can share whatever you share in that workspace that they join. They will have access to that, and you can decide how much access to the workspace you want them to have. But that is a terrific question. And my good friend, Dave Vignola, over at Home Recording Made Easy is here. Dave, good to see you, my friend. Glad you are here. Dave and I go back a very long way. We are very dear friends. He is one of my most ardent and avid supporters, and it's great to have him pop into the show from time to time. He and I have done some live streams on his channel, collaborative live streams, which are really great fun to do, and I hope that we get to do some more of those in the foreseeable future, because those would be great. They're always great fun. Dave is very knowledgeable. He is a great educator. He has a fantastic website, Home Recording Made Easy, and some terrific courses which you should go and check out. And there's at least 2 of those that are my courses that Dave allows me to sell there. Which, if you don't have, go get them, because they are no longer available on my website, unfortunately. Dear Greek Audio, that's my good friend Chris Howard is here. He says, hi Johnny, been a bit. Any discussion coming up about this supercharged atom? You're referring to the Atom SQ. I have one. I have one right here. Actually, it's a little out of shot. Hang on. So here's mine. I don't have it working at the moment, and that's because I need to upgrade Universal Control. And there we go. And I just haven't done that yet. But as soon as I do that, this guy is awesome. I have it working on the Mac. I have had it working on the Mac, and it's really, really great. It's great fun. It's a great little device to play. So yeah, it's fantastic. Let's see. Carlos says, thanks for your answer. Finding it a bit restrictive. Forcing people to join, they're not sure I'll pay for more storage. Nobody is forced to join. But if you want people to have access to your workspace, then they are not Persona Sphere members. They don't have to become Persona Sphere members. They can just sign up to create a free My Personas account. That's it. It's totally free. It doesn't cost them a penny. They just have the same My Personas account that you had before you became a Persona Sphere member. You had a My Personas account. And so it doesn't cost them anything. They don't have to pay the $15 a month, because all they have access to is your workspace. That's the only part of Persona Sphere that non-members can get access to, is the workspace that you have invited them to. But it's an entirely free account. Doesn't cost them anything. So there's no monetary exchange that they need to make to work with you in your workspace. None at all. Yeah, Dave says, good to see you, Johnny. Yes, more live streams coming. Absolutely. It's going to be great. So Carlos, I hope that allays your fears. whomever you are working with or want to work with in your workspace in Personasphere, they don't have to be a Personasphere member. They absolutely can, and you can encourage them to do so, but they do not have to. In order to have access to your workspace, all they need to do is create the free My Personas account. That is it. It doesn't cost them anything. Carlos says, if you share your work to labels, you don't want to add a step and force them to... What? I'm not quite sure I understand that. If you share your work to labels, you don't want to add a step and force them to something an account to listen to your work. I don't think... I mean, I work with record labels all the time. I have done for over 30 years. And, I mean, even now, we're only like a few months down the road with Personasphere. And, any record labels that I work with where I have stuff in a workspace, because the musicians that I'm working with are Personasphere members, I mean, it's not really going to be an issue. I mean, if, let's say, for example, you were working with people outside and you were going to send them a Dropbox link. Well, if they don't have Dropbox, they have to create a Dropbox account. So this is kind of the same thing, except instead of creating a Dropbox account, they're creating a free, at zero cost, no pennies, nothing account. So yeah, they either create a Dropbox account and you share the files through Dropbox, or you have your workspace and you invite them to share your workspace and they just create a free My Personas account. It's exactly the same thing. They either create one account or they create the other, and both are free. So it's kind of up to you which one you want to do. However, if you're using Dropbox, then there is an extra step involved for you, because anything that is in your workspace, you would have to then copy and paste and paste to your Dropbox account. So that's the extra step that's involved for you. Dropbox have public links? No. Yes, they do. I don't use them for the very simple reason that they are public. Anybody that I work with, if I'm, the way I've done it for years is through Dropbox. Most people have Dropbox accounts. Most record labels that I know of have Dropbox accounts. Is there a way to share my automated tempo with other DAWs? Good question. Don't know, actually. I mean, if you're sending your audio files to somebody else who is using a different DAW, you are sending a mix down of those. If you're exporting the stems, for example, you're exporting a mix down of those stems. So I don't think the automation gets written, or any automation. I don't think any tempo automation gets written to those. They just get sent as simple audio files. So I don't think it is the case that automated tempo goes with it. However, in any DAW, most DAWs these days, especially if you have Melodyne integrated, you can certainly tempo map, especially with Melodyne. Melodyne is fantastic for tempo mapping. So, if you bring the audio file into Melodyne, you can use Melodyne to tempo map, and then you drop that tempo map into the DAW, and the DAW will follow that tempo map. So there is that way of doing it. So there you go. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. And Carlos, I hope that answers your question as well. MB Lister says, plus, if it's their job to listen to people's music, I'm sure they already have accounts on all the major sites. Yeah, they absolutely will. They absolutely will, and that is a terrific point. So it's not really going to be anybody's skin off anybody's noses to create a free My Personas account. I don't think. Federico is here. Hello, Federico. I think you are new to my show. Welcome. Hello, how are you? I'm thinking of updating my Studio One 4 to 5, and I don't know what to do. If I do it as I was doing or enter the subscription, what would you recommend? I recommend that you go and take a look at the Presonus website. So if you go to presonus.com and then go to products and then go to software, there's a section there on Studio One. You can go and look at everything to do with Studio One and what Studio One 5 has. There's a compare versions page as well, so you can look at the professional version versus the artist version. You can look there and see kind of what is what. And there's a section there on Presonisphere, and you can see exactly what you get with Presonisphere. So Presonisphere essentially comes with everything that we make, software-wise. So you get Studio One Professional and all of the add-ons that are available for Studio One Professional. And you also get Notion, and I think it's Notion 6.7 now. So you get Notion plus all of the sound libraries that are available for Notion. Plus, there are a whole bunch of add-ons as well. Like there's the whole Persona Spark bundle. There's loads of synths. There's Deep Flight 1, which we launched just last week, which is freaking awesome. And so if you are a Presonisphere member, things like Deep Flight 1, which was added to the Persona software library, you get that included. So it doesn't cost you anything extra. You just pay your $15 a month or your annual fee, whatever it is. And Deep Flight 1 is there in your account, ready for you to download and install. Just like that. And so if anything else comes down the line, which it probably will at some point, you will have that in your account instantly, ready for you to download and install and use in Studio One. Plus, you also get access to a whole bunch of exclusive videos. There's an expert chat, so you can ask any of your questions of any of our power users and some of our Personas artists. And there's exclusive live streams, which are just for Presonisphere members. And there have been some giveaways done at some of these live streams as well. So you could end up with something special out of watching one of those live streams. So yeah, there's tons of stuff like that available for you for your monthly or annual fee. So I would go for either. It depends. You know, if you are the kind of person that is going to use a lot of these add-ons, then Presonisphere is probably the best option for you. If you're not, and you're just an old-fashioned, you know, kind of rock and roller or jazzer, and, you know, you prefer to use microphones and plug your guitars in, plug your basses in, or whatever, and that's kind of what you do, then maybe just upgrading to Studio One is probably what you would do. But if you like collaborating with other people, Presonisphere, again, could be a good option for you, because there is a section in there called Workspaces where, and I've kind of talked a little bit about this already, where you can collaborate with other members and also with non-members as well. All they have to do is create a free My Personas account if they're not a member. It's fairly straightforward. Chris said, Mike Johnson sent me a link to Presonisphere. Worked the first time, then Personas required me to pay $5 for further use. $16 a month or similar. I couldn't access it anymore. That's interesting. I'll look into that for you, Chris. I don't think that should have happened. But yeah, I will look into that. And I recommend you also put in a support ticket as well. But thanks for letting me know about that. Carlos P says, AAF format allows to share tempo between different doors, I think. It may do. Jerome Weaver says, at some point, Dropbox will require more storage paste at a cost. Yes, it does. Yeah, Dropbox is by no means free, but let me put it after a certain amount. But let me put it this way to you. If you're a record label and you're making a large amount of revenue every month, then, you know, $7, $8, $9, $10 a month for Dropbox for Business is not any great shakes. Mind you, neither's $50 a month for monthly subscription to Persona Sphere. So it's kind of like pick your poison kind of thing. Bob Box Guitar says, thanks for the show. Sorry I had to go. Yeah, we're actually over time as well. So Federico says, thanks for the explanation. You are welcome. Jerome says, Persona Sphere, you also get tech support. I used it and got support that same day. Well, you even get that if you're not a Persona Sphere member. Technical support is not just for Persona Sphere members. However, access to the expert chat, that is just for Personas members. But yeah, anybody that has Studio One or Notion in your accounts, or you have hardware, you have access to Persona support. Absolutely you do. But yeah. Just Bob says, if after 2 years, do you lose Studio One upgrades when cancelling? I understand you lose soundscapes and any other soundscapes used on recordings. In the knowledge base for Persona Sphere, there's an important section in there. And what it talks about is this. Anything that you acquire by virtue of your membership of Persona Sphere will be deactivated on cancellation. So when you cancel, let's say you cancel at the start of a month. Whatever you have remaining of that month, you will keep your stuff. But as soon as the next monthly payment is required, because you have cancelled, all of that stuff that you had acquired through your membership of Persona Sphere will be deactivated. So if you have Studio One 5 Professional through Persona Sphere, that will be deactivated and you will revert to whatever you had before. So if that was Studio One 4, that's what you'll have. So yeah, and that includes any of the add-ons, the works, everything that is in Persona Sphere, you will lose access to. It kind of works in the same way that gym membership does. If you cancel gym membership, you're not going to be able to, when your membership therefore expires because you've cancelled it, you're not therefore going to be able to go and use the treadmills again, or the swimming pool, or the sauna, or any of that stuff. All of that stuff you will no longer have access to. So in the same way with Persona Sphere, all the stuff that you acquired access to through your membership will be deactivated. Okay, so I hope you understand that. Ski Jump says, I find it hard to determine what is non-technical support with the expert chat. Could you give examples of what they deal with? Yeah, the expert chat folks, they are not Persona's technical support. They are just users like you guys, but they are, they've been using Studio One for a very long time. They have maybe been on the betas for various Studio One releases. So a lot of them have been on the Studio One 5 beta, so they know Studio One 5 inside and out. But they are not technical support. So they will handle things like how-to questions. So how do I copy-paste my channel settings, for example? Which is what I did earlier on in the show. Or how do I set up a virtual instrument player in the show page? they'll be able to answer those questions. Those are not really questions for tech support. Those are for the expert chat folks, because they will say, hey, yeah, you just do it like this. And that's that done. And it just kind of means that you have access to, some real experts in using Studio One. There are some experts in Notion there, like Lucas is one of our expert guys, and he is really, really knowledgeable, because he not only knows notation, he's also a Studio One power user, but he understands the code base of Studio One, because he has worked with it, because he did an internship at Personas Software. So like he's responsible for some of the things, like some of the macro toolbars, for example. He designed those. So, MB Lister says, but the gym can't take back the muscle you gained. That's a brilliant analogy. Absolutely. So, kind of what you gain out of your time with PersonaSphere, if you then decide to not use it anymore and you cancel, the songs that you wrote, you will still have. Especially if you've exported the stems out of Studio One 5 and you've exported your mixdowns, you'll still have access to those songs, because you can bring those stems back into Studio One 4. No problem. And also, the experience that you gained as well. Anyway, we are 15 minutes over show, and we've still got 36 people in here, which is incredible. I776 says, seems like almost every company is going subscription-based. Personas are not going subscription-based. Let me just make that extremely clear. Personas are not going subscription model. It's not something we're doing at all. PersonaSphere is a membership of a membership community, and there are certain privileges that go with that membership. But if you prefer to own your license of Studio One, you can purchase it at shop.personas.com right now. If that's how you prefer to do it, or if you prefer to get it through Audio Deluxe or sweetwater.com, you can go there, or Gear for Music, or wherever it is you prefer to go and actually purchase your perpetual license. You can still do that. And that is not going to go anywhere. Okay? If you prefer having your license as opposed to being a member, being in a membership, that's fine. Absolutely not a problem. You can still get Studio One 5 and Notion and any of the other add-ons and all of that. They are all still in the store. You can get them that way, or you can get them via the membership. It's entirely up to you which way you want to go. So, let me just make that really clear. Personas are not going subscription. Not like Avid. What did Avid do? They pretty much forced everybody into a funnel and said, you are only able to get Pro Tools this way. You can get a perpetual license for Pro Tools, but they have made it phenomenally expensive for you to do that. And really actually impractical for you to do that. So, Personas are not doing that. So that's going to be the last question of the night, folks, because we are now 20 minutes over show. Thank you very much for the generous donations. And I'm just going to remind you of who they are again. Bobby Booth, Kyle, Druziak, Kelly Winters, and Lowenz. Thank you so much for your generous donations. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for that. It just makes doing what I do a lot easier. So there we go. That is the end of the show, folks. Thank you very, very much for coming and for your great, great questions. And I hope my answers have been helpful and useful for you and constructive. Please hit that like button over there somewhere and hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscribed person to my channel. And ding the bell as well, so that you get all the notifications for everything that I have coming up. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you on Wednesday over on Jonny Give's channel, Home Studio Trainer, for Songwriting Simplified. Don't know what we're going to do yet, but I'll have that conversation with Jonny and we'll get something squared away so that there's a great show lined up for you guys. All right, folks, I will see you very soon. Good night. There we go.